Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Damn, set, watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of Trap or Die Podcast. I'm your host of the Trap or Die Podcast, Mual. AJ's on the way, Dre is on the way. I see y'all in the chat. Jay Tizzy, Bands, what up? What's going on with y'all? Everybody that's checking in live, we appreciate y'all as always for checking in live. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're on the audio side, make sure. Okay. If you're on the audio side, make sure you hit that follow button. Hit us with a rating and review. It takes 2 seconds to do so, and it's free to show your support. That way, we definitely appreciate y'all showing love on the audio side as well. What am I doing? Commander's Morning Show tomorrow morning. We're back 6 a.m. Tomorrow morning. Last week was 6:30. Tomorrow 6 a.m. So for all the early birds, just like me, tap in with your boy. We up early. Get your ass up. We'll do a film session there. So don't expect like an extra one. We'll do the film session tomorrow morning on the defense. I haven't finished the fourth quarter yet. I've been I was out of town this weekend, right? So but what I like with this defense, the defense is crazy how statistically they aren't a good defense in the pass game. In the run game. But like they flash, bruh. And like if they can get this molded, if they can mold some consistency, bruh, like it's just so impressive just to see how things start off and knowing that it exists, like how good they are or how good they can be. And then there's just some lapses. All that being said, I know there's some lapses because it happened in the second half, right? But at the end of the day, the first half, bruh, it's like some of the best defense that you can really have against the Philadelphia Eagles with a Saquon Barkley and the two perimeter weapons. So yeah, it's happened to the morning show. We're gonna talk some ball. We'll do a film session, all that good stuff. AJ is here. Let's get AJ on. All right, what's going on, AJ?
Cooling, man, cooling. About to put my camera on in a little bit.
All right, so where was I? Yeah, it's been the big plays, unfortunately. You know, the story of a lifetime with this defense and this team altogether. All right, so let's kind of tap into the show. Where are we starting today? Am I on? I'm in the wrong one. Okay. So Dan Quinn. Oh, I bet Dre here too. Perfect timing. We can get the show started for real. All right, here we go. Boom, there we go. What's going on, Drake?
What's up, player, man? Feeling good.
That's good. Oh, that's good, man. I hope everybody recharge, refresh after this 10-day break. Or we ain't at the 10-day mark yet, but you know we had ourselves off day this Sunday, so that ain't always.
I don't know if you talked about this before I got on, but how was Tennessee, man?
I'm assuming you said, it froze for a second. You said how was Tennessee?
Yeah, how was Tennessee? Yeah.
It was cool, bro. I was down there for a day and a half. I think we didn't get to do too much. Like we had like a couple places we can go, which we did, the Broad Street spot, with all the bars and country music and stuff like that. And
did you have a cowboy hat with your cowboy boots on?
No, I didn't. But the Skull crew took over.
Oh, I'm sure.
In Nashville, bro. And Rye was so perplexed that they can do something like that, go down to Nashville and like really take over. And but you know, it was cool, bro. You know,
was that Rod's first time in
yeah,
Nashville for a game?
yeah. Well, yeah, he ain't never been to a Titans game. Like a Titans fan has never been to a Titans game in Nashville, but you know, first time for everything.
Hey,
So
sound like how it's gonna be. Well, it sounds like how it is with these Cowboys fans from the DMV area.
from the
They
DMV,
ain't never even
yeah.
touched the state of Texas ever.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, it was cool, bro. Went to a little club after we got sick of, you know, the same old in Broad Street. If you kind of catch my drift, bro. We went to I got some cousins out in Tennessee and Nashville. You know, they told me where we need to be. But then, you know, Sunday was the quote unquote mollywop, and it wasn't like Tennessee never really stood a chance until the refs kept getting in their way. They kept getting their own way. But when I tell you, bro, when we got up out of our seats to leave the stadium, like I ain't never seen, like it was all Vikings fans. Like before you even realize it, like all 3 Vikings fans left in the stadium, bro. It was thousands of them. Like you don't recognize it when the game is in. Like you can. There's some Titans fans around, but when Titans fans left, purple everywhere.
So let me ask this: what did it feel like? I mean, and I'm imagining that it was like this because Tennessee's obviously not doing pretty well this season. They're tanking. They want to go to the draft. But did it feel like one of those Washington games where it's like, you know, a road game, you know, for some teams, like certain fan base, like the Steelers.
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
So did it feel like that there for the Vikings?
Yes, bruh. Yes, like you, bruh. Tennessee was back inside their own 5-yard line, right? I don't know if y'all saw the highlight where Cuz hit the 99-yard touchdown or 98-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
That drive, like they're in the back of their end zone, bruh, and Vikings fans are going, like you can hear all of, bruh. It's like they on the road, bruh. Like it was so loud, like because we're on the opposite end zone when that happened. So we're on the opposite end zone. We could, if you get my drift, we can see all of Nashville where we at. And next thing you know, we hear nothing but like it's so loud over there, bro. Like they was making noise, and I think that was the moment where I was like, yeah, y'all not even a home team right now, bro.
So it don't just happen here. That's good to know.
don't the Commanders play the Titans next week?
Yes, right after the Cowboys game.
Yep. So you how did you feel about that defense?
Oh, I like their defense. They front 7 tough. Like my man not Tier Tart. Dang, I'm forgetting the dude name, but it's Tavondre Sweat. Like that dude go crazy, bro. And they playing with a couple corners that's like some backups. Because they're dealing with some injuries up there, but I mean at that spot and at safety too. They got that one safety that's on IR. I think Quandre Diggs. But like they was holding their own against Minnesota. It was just like some splash plays when you deal with a Justin Jefferson, and have to account for him and Jordan Addison. TJ Hawkinson went off, and Sam Darnold didn't have a Sam Darnold day. Like he had an actual good day. I think that's kind of the difference maker right there. But I mean, I saw some moments where like honestly, even with the score being what it was, like Minnesota they shouldn't have scored. They shouldn't have scored more than 17 points. They got hosed by the ref a couple times. Say all that to say like the defense stood tall in some big spots, but they just really couldn't get out of their way with penalties, bro. That's all you got to say about that. But they're a solid defense, in my opinion. All right. So as we get this better not, bro, this man. As we get into the show, let's kind of discuss the lingering thoughts. Dan Quinn actually spoke. What's today? Tuesday. He spoke Monday, and he had some comments surrounding a few things that I thought were worth discussing. The first and foremost thing, he mentioned Jaden not being injured. How do we feel about that in the sense of he mentioned that as opposed to thinking about injury or thinking that he's playing hurt is more about practice reps and not being available to practice that had hindered his ability to be effective since the injury had occurred. Dan Quinn offered that alternative perspective to the media, and that's kind of where he was. How are we feeling about that aspect? I think he's playing hurt personally, but I don't think. I think if he's playing hurt, excuse me, let me rephrase that. I think he's playing hurt, but I don't think he's hindering the team or hurting the offense at all. I think he's still the best option. I still think he's capable of playing good football. There's just other aspects that are getting in his way because he hurt his ribs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most exhausting thing with the game happening on Thursday, uh, I kind of even disconnected from like Twitter for a little bit, man, because I feel like that game wasn't lost because of Jaden Daniels. And I think because so many people watch the game and they pay so much attention to quarterbacks and their stats and stuff like that, what got lost in the overall game was the offensive line wasn't as productive as it's been throughout the season. On top of that, wide receivers not necessarily getting open or making plays when it is there. I think when you look at it from an overall NFL perspective, everyone's kind of playing hurt. No one's 100% unless you just been riding the bench all season. You ain't been getting no special teams reps, nothing of that nature. But to have a game against such a tough competitive team like the Pittsburgh Steelers and then turn around and have to play Philadelphia Eagles some days later without like full practices all the way and routine and all those different things. Maybe he looked a little rusty. Same can be said for Jalen Hurts. He didn't look the greatest either. At some point, some team was going to give in to allowing a team to make a play. And, fortunately for the Philadelphia Eagles fans, Saquon was able to break one. They were able to make some plays. But overall, that game was not lost because of Jaden Daniels. Now, I think what I'm annoyed by is some people within the media trying to make that a primary focus of this team and covering them and really not get into the nuts and bolts of things, which is why they truly did lose these particular two games in a matter of days. I think that's really the nuances of it. I think Dan Quinn has been very honest and truthful about how they're handling injuries, these particular players, and you have to with how the NFL reporting is of injuries. Jaden has even said out his own damn mouth, like, if I was truly hurt, I wouldn't be out there. I think we also seen in that injury against Carolina, he injured his ribs, but he was back on the sideline, raising his arms, laughing, joking. If you got a severe rib injury or something that significant, it's hard for you to even breathe, yet alone laugh or raise your arm. So I just think people are trying to nitpick on certain things because that's what, not even just sports, but in America, they build you up to tear you down. And he's been built up so high as a prospect and a superstar that even in these moments, which aren't really that bad. I mean, we watched Sam Howell and Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke over the last several years play quarterback. Even his lowlights of his rookie season at this point are still high pivotal moments where you still feel like you have an opportunity to win. You still have a chance to truly compete. And I just think that this fan base is still not acclimated to having a quarterback, a superstar one at that, and they're going to nitpick. And that's what's been going on since that game ended on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I like Dan Quinn's response. It made sense to me. It was something I hadn't really thought much about, but yeah, it's true. He hasn't been practicing, and I know a lot of people may not value that or put a lot of stock into it. They're thinking if you're a football player, you go out there and play. But I've heard for years and I've seen for years that when players, especially in an important position like the quarterback position, when they miss practice time, it's a big deal. It's a bigger deal than a lot of fans may kind of put emphasis on, because there's a lot that goes through that. It's the walkthroughs, it's it's the actual timing that you have with the receivers, and that could make some of the sense when it comes to some of the some of the missed throws that he had, especially with Noah Brown. Maybe that was a timing thing. That's some of the stuff that you kind of work through and practice during the week. Now, I know he's been, practicing with these guys, months now, off season through the summer and all of that. But when you miss that practice time, it can throw the timing off. So that could be a great explanation for why. Now, Jaden could be hurt. Sure. I don't even want to say hurt in a sense, but there could be some discomfort still there at times. But I do believe Dan Quinn at his word. Like, Dan Quinn doesn't seem like the one to just blow smoke up your ass when he's just talking. No diddy. Before AJ says it. But no, he doesn't seem like the type of person.
I wasn't even thinking about it. My eyes over here burning like crazy, bro. I know
I can't see you.
I'm over here squinting like a motherfucker. Like,
but no, like I said, he could be dealing with discomfort and all of that. But again, Dan Quinn, he seems pretty honest, and he actually kind of came out yesterday in the presser. I was listening to it. He got out on top of that before anyone kind of asked him the injury question. He basically just said, he's not injured, and I'm saying this as honest as possible. So to me, yeah, I'll take his word for that. But again, I think it could be just a simple matter of the practices hasn't been there. The timing is getting thrown off a bit. And it is annoying because the thing is, Jaden has been so good this season that, these aren't even the worst quarterback games we've seen here in Washington. We've been watching a lot of Washington football. We've seen a lot of bad quarterbacks come through here. The last two games we've seen far, far worse. So Jaden has been so good. He's been so high up on this pedestal that these past two games, and I don't even think the Steelers was a bad game. It just wasn't a top Jaden game that we've seen Jaden play. Now, the Eagles game wasn't a good game. Then it wasn't Jaden's best game by far. It could be classified as his worst game. Me and Mual actually kind of had the same thought that it reminded us of his first game against the Buccaneers. That's what it looked like this week. But again, we've seen Jaden bounce back, and it wasn't the worst game. You still had a chance to win these two games. That's what's so kind of frustrating about these games. Like, I'm not even upset because Washington is still a good team. There's nothing from these past two games that makes me believe anything less than that. But when you're playing against these two teams and you have these chances to win, it's frustrating that you didn't walk out with the win. The Eagles game was even more frustrating because it felt like you shut this team down for like 3 quarters. Then the fourth quarter just kind of exploded all over the place. So that was the frustrating thing. But again, I'm so anxious for this game to come on Sunday. Because
hey, Mo, why you ain't saying it?
What?
Yo, Mo's face when you said that E word.
Oh, the explosion. That's why I left it at just explosion, because it could be a bomb, it could be anything. Yeah, y'all are immature. I'm not gonna put myself in that category. But no, see, look, you'll maybe lose my train of thought. But no, to close my thoughts out on this, man, I think Jaden will be fine. I'm anxious for the game this Sunday because it's just too much talking in the media right now. Like, we are hyping up Bo Nix. Now, don't get me wrong. Bo Nix is having a great rookie campaign so far. But he's had his stinkers. But lucky for Bo Nix that he had his stinkers early in the season, whereas now he had a couple of good games and people want to put him in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Now, he could be in the conversation, but make no mistake about it, Jaden Daniels is still the front runner for this Rookie of the Year award.
What's going on, everybody that's just checking in? Sir made a point that I mentioned on the Thursday night show post game. I do think it's interesting with the conversation with Jaden, because I think a lot of people who are loud right now after this, there are several different angles to look at this. And I'll try to chop them up as quickly as possible. But a lot of people who have been speaking after the Eagles loss, knowing Jaden played his worst game of the season, I think those are the people who were just waiting for the days that he didn't have a good game, because it feeds into their underlying thought of who they didn't want in the draft, right? And they didn't want Jaden, right? That's a section of those groups of people. I'm not going to say that's the whole group, but I do think that those people exist, and those people become loud in moments like that, because when, like, misery loves company, and the louder you are on social media, in a spot like that, you know, you're gonna get some attention. So people are going to see your comments. People are going to see the I didn't want him more. This is what I was concerned about. He's not healthy. We shouldn't have got a frail quarterback. All those things.
Yep.
All those thoughts. Then I also think what's frustrating when you hear or when you see two losses like that is like the true front runners, you know, who gets bigger voices in these moments. And what I mean by that is people who really didn't understand what type of season this was. Now I immediately, like you asked, did my expectations change? And I told you, yeah, I'm just not getting a Super Bowl ticket no more. Like I was joking, and I hope that people understood that I was clearly joking to begin with. That I really didn't think we were going to the Super Bowl this year, but I did think before these two losses that they had a real shot at the NFC title game. But I also think that to even go that, like, that's shooting pretty high in itself. But I say that to say the people who truly believe that this team was the number 2 team in the NFC, like no questions asked, there was no other competition. And I was trying to find that tweet the other day, and I couldn't find it because it was people who were believing that there's no team on that schedule before we play Chicago. There was no team on our schedule that Washington would have any problems with. And I'm like, bro, like, how do you look at Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and sit here and say that they aren't competition? So I say that to say the other section of people who are loud in this moment are people who really were front running, thinking that this team was more superior than what they actually are. You got to live in who you believe they to be and live in some objectivity. And for you to get let down after 2 losses in a row, but also to have no perspective or context to know that these two teams are exactly the teams up front who you would love to be, like teams who could rush the passer with 4, teams who are super disciplined up front, teams who could stop the run and get after the quarterback in some instances, right? And create turnovers. Like, that's who you strive to be. And I'm not saying Washington is not that completely. They're getting their building blocks together, but they're not there yet. And you have people in the trenches who can really take over a game on the defensive side of the football. And that's exactly what they did to us in back-to-back games. Yes, the offensive line is injured or playing hurt. I remember talking to somebody on the morning show, and I was talking about the injury report, or maybe it was the game preview show with us. And I was saying, bro, the center, Tyler Biotis, is dealing with 3 different injuries on the injury report. Like, when have you ever seen somebody get listed for 3 different injuries, bro?
And that's probably your best offensive lineman.
That's probably your best offensive lineman, bro. He couldn't wait for the 10-day break, and he can't wait for the bye week. Like, people are really dealing with injuries up front. The only person who I think is, I mean, he had some injuries here and there, but the only person who really getting baptized is Brandon Coleman, like the rookie. He is having some issues from a technical standpoint in his pass sets. And I think that's something where it's like, you got to hope that Corn Lucas gets back so they can go back to that, so they can stop. Matter of fact, I don't know if y'all remember.
So you got the rotation back.
Yeah, but I like part of my reasoning. I don't know if y'all remember this. But like when we were talking about it initially, one of my things with Brandon Coleman was like, if you get him full game reps, you don't know what you're going to expose your offense to. And that was one of my main things with people saying, like, why is this rotation a thing? Like, Corn Lucas, like, he can offset the risk that Brandon Coleman provides you as a rookie, inexperienced guy, because you're going to get him in situations, Corn Lucas, where like you can trust him in his passes or in the run game that Brandon Coleman just ain't there yet as a rookie. And that's why I was like, I understand what they're doing, because you limit the risk when you have Corn Lucas out there in some instances, as opposed to 80 snaps for Brandon Coleman or a full 80 snaps in a game. So all that to say, summing it up, the people who didn't want Jaden are pretty loud right now. The people who were true front runners thinking that this team was the hot shit which they are, but not to the level in which you think they are. Like they're surprised and they're embarrassed, and now they're thinking that this team is a failure or they're on fraud alert. And then people aren't taking into context that this offensive line is really banged up, and they went up against two top tier defensive fronts and offensive fronts, right? Who can really control the trenches if they can. And Washington put up a great battle, but they weren't good enough. And that's what people are failing to take into account with this team, bro. And that's kind of one thing I look at with these guys right now is like relax. But I also see that, you got an opportunity to turn things around this Sunday.
But why folks acting like, okay, you didn't if you didn't want Jaden, you wanted Drake May like he's playing phenomenal or something. Like, I mean, Jaden is balling. Like they're 7-4 in November. This team finished 4 in.
You just got PTSD, bro.
Yeah, they finished 4-13 last year. Like, come on, man. Like, let's be serious, man. They went against two of the better teams in the NFL overall. I mean, we seen what the Steelers just did to the Ravens.
But see, my thing is,
it's like they were in that game with the Eagles the whole time. It's just few little mistakes here and there. Even though their offensive line was getting dominated, it was still like they had an opportunity to win that game. In the fourth quarter, they were leading.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like none of these games they were out of. The Steelers game, I mean, they were in control. They was almost to the point in the Steelers game where they were in cruise control. The Eagles game, I mean, they had a lot of opportunities. The offense could just never get off the ground, and it could be a lot of factors into that. Again, it was a 4-day week. You're not really practicing that much that week, and the Eagles are a talented roster. I mean, as much as we would love to supplant those guys and, take over the NFC East leader division, whatever the case may be. Right now, I mean, that roster is better than Washington's, but it kind of speaks to the coaching that we are able to stay in these games, or actually able to not even just stay in these games, but able to compete in these games at a level that you are kind of can beat these teams. I mean, we are disappointed that we didn't beat these teams because we were in position to win both of these games. But here we didn't win these games, and now the talk is, Washington is are maybe frauds, or maybe Jaden Daniels isn't that good. So you got to even kind of listen to that. Even I don't even like listening to sports radio, as you all know, but sometimes when I get in the car, it just may happen to be on before I can put my aux cord on. And I heard a phone call into one of the radio shows. I forget which one I was listening to this week. Someone came in and said straight off the bat, man, they need to fire Cliff Kingsbury right now. And I'm like, damn. I mean, just straight up. And he was dead serious. It was no troll call, no joke. Dude just said, man, right now we got to fire Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, that's the type of stuff you got to kind of deal with. And it's stuff that we've kind of dealt with as a fan base in this media market for years. And a lot of it was warranted and valid because we just weren't doing the right things. But this team I don't feel like they deserve that level of whatever this Washington fan base wants to give them after these losses. Amal, you said it right. I mean, it's PTSD. A lot of fans still have it. But I mean, it's like you forgetting everything that you've watched or forgetting everything that you've seen that's been good and that you've seen from this team in just 1 year of this new regime. So, I mean, that's why it's so frustrating to go through these little stretches, but it's okay. I mean, I think this team's going to get back on track.
I think the more frustrating thing is...
Hey, let's change, because we've been on this job for 30 minutes. Yeah, we got to change the subject, bro.
I was just going to say real quick, I think the more frustrating thing is that these people that are doing the complaining didn't even have these expectations of them thus far. Like what they're doing thus far, they didn't even have these expectations.
I agree. He also spoke on, it's crazy, we're still on coaches speak. So I'll be quick with this one. The Marshawn Lattimore timeline, he said that he's not surprised that the timeline is what it is. He's not speaking just to injury, but he mentioned getting adjusted to the new team or a new defense. That's something that he's not surprised about. Yes or no? Would you have expected Quinn and company? Excuse me. Do you think that Quinn and company would have expected Lattimore to be ready by the Cowboys game at the very least?
Yeah, I would think so. Especially they have his medicals They understand what was going on with him while he was in New Orleans. They know the severity or lack of with his hamstring. As we've seen, Dan Quinn in this operation with Adam Peters as well, they slow walk injuries. Brandon Coleman, a bunch of other guys that they've been slow walking with injuries, and I just think that I anticipate Marshawn plays on Sunday. I'm hoping so, as it's been a good period of time to get acclimated with the calls, teammates, and different things. But if not, no big deal. I mean, them boys held their own for the most part against Philly last week. The Dallas Cowboys are food, anyways. Um, so, so it really don't matter. I think this move was done with longevity in mind. Dre just hit the old man cough randomly just now, but yeah, like it was done with longevity in mind. Having to not have to worry about necessarily securing a cornerback number one next year. But we'll see. But I hope that Marshawn plays. I'm looking forward to if he plays, just being on the field and how Joe Witt uh, uses the rest of the guys on the defense, such as Chen and Luvu, and also just how they play collectively. So I'm hoping for that this coming Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think they were surprised in a sense, or I mean, I take him at his word for it. I'm sure they knew about the hamstring, but again, it's a hamstring. It's a soft tissue injury. You don't know when you can kind of recover from those. I mean, as we've seen with hamstrings over the years, these things could take weeks. So, I mean, I don't think it would have deterred them had they known that, yeah, he's going to be out the first 2 to 3 weeks after this trade. It wouldn't have deterred them because, as I said before, this was a move made for the long term. You don't just have Marshawn Lattimore under contract for 1 year or 6 games or however many games are left in the season. You have Marshawn Lattimore under your, contract of control for the next 2 to 3 years or so, whatever that is. But either way, you have him for a couple of years under your control. So, and he's going to be your best cornerback probably for the next couple of years as well. So, I mean, again, and he's going to play this season. I mean, a hamstring injury is not one of those injuries that's going to keep you out forever. It's not going to keep you out for the rest of the season. It's just one of those things that takes like 2 to 4 weeks to heal. And we are at that portion. And Lattimore pretty much said when he came over, the day he came over for the trade, Lattimore said that this was a new injury. Like this just happened. So, you think about a hamstring injury. Hamstrings, you don't just come back in 1 week typically. I haven't seen it normally, especially for someone that has to move the way Marshawn has to move throughout the field. The quick twitches, you got to stay with the wide receivers and whatnot. So you want that guy on the field when he can go out there and do what Marshawn Lattimore does. I mean, a lot of our fan base, I know they want to see this guy out there now, and they want this microwave, kind of instant success with Marshawn Lattimore. Again, I'm still riding a wave of whatever we are on for this season. So no, Marshawn is fine. I don't think they are concerned, and he'll be on the field soon. It doesn't have to be this week. It really doesn't even have to be next week against the Titans. As long as he's kind of here for this big playoff push that we are about to make, and that's going to happen after the bye. That's when you're going to be in full playoff push mode, and that's when you want a Marshawn Lattimore out there.
Let's get into the self-scouting comment on the other side of this ad break from Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the best place to play champions, so sign up and deposit now using promo code TRAPADIVE to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. This season, Underdog is going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like Profit Boost, where you can pump up your winnings in just a tap. When you apply to eligible entries, you can use discounts where you'll get adjusted projections on certain players' stats to give you a better shot at a big dub. And in the free picks, where they're basically a short thing, a player just has to get higher than a 0.5 stat line, such as a Jaden Daniels rushing yard. 0.5 hit the over, or hit higher, however you want to describe it. Hit higher on the total, and you can get your dub just like that. All new users gets free picks anyway, so keep that in mind as well. I tell y'all every single week about the red zone rush. It's probably the best way to get your touchdown numbers in, right? The red zone rush is where you just pick a player, whether they'll score a touchdown or not, hit left or swipe left for the no and swipe right for the yes. It's as simple as that. Your entry is automatically boosted, and you get a 51% profit boost when you play. That's why I love it. Just give me 4 players, bro. Give me a B-Rob. Give me who else gonna score? Jay Jettis. He ain't scored this weekend. He had me. I was a little pissed off. I had him on on one of them plays, man. And I'm a little frustrated, but you got some people who score every single week, right? You got them people in your mind. Just never forget B-Rob. B-Rob's your guy. B-Rob is your guy. But anyway, download the app. Use promo code TrapperDive to get $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that is promo code TrapperDive. Download the app and you get that $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. You must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 and plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. If you're in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or 1-800-639-8783 or text Next Step to 53342. If you're in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Self-scout. So if there's one conversation that I said that need to be taking place internally, now I think Dan Quinn actually said this before, and I maybe have forgotten. But he said in his presser yesterday, if there's one thing that they do self-scouting on a quarterly basis internally. And they're actually at the mark. I missed the part if he said it was this week or it was the week going into the Pittsburgh game, but I'm assuming it's actually this week after the Eagles, where they have a meeting, and then they do their self-scouting and their own internal evaluations on themselves. And honestly, I think this is probably one of the perfect times it comes for the offense. I think, like I said a couple times, I think the defense is surging. And before y'all got on the show, I was telling the chat, everybody that was here live, I think this defense is coming alive, bro. And it's unfortunate that, great starts to their games are kind of being watched by like some negative plays, some huge negative plays in the second half of games lately, obviously against Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but still big negative plays, and even Chicago to that extent, right? But the offense, I think I don't want to point to a coordinator issue. I think again we're dealing with several different failures of the machine right now. And I think that's the most important thing to understand. But to that point, and why I say self-scouting is important and why this is on the coaches, how does Cliff recognize, or what does Cliff recognize he needs to protect his offensive linemen, to keep them playing at an efficient level? What does he need to do for Jaden? B-Rob has come back now. B-Rob and Austin Eckler, they were super efficient to start the season, right? And to some extent, they still are efficient, right? Eckler had himself a day in the passing game. And B-Rob told it a little bit on Thursday. But how do you keep those guys matchup nightmares for a defense? And then how do you get Terry? How do you prevent Terry from having another day where he has one catch for 10 yards? Like, there's some things that he's going to have to look at. And that's, never mind that part. The most important thing is, how do you be more efficient in the red zone? Like, the slower play calls happen. Your offensive line gets confused sometimes. You get these false starts because y'all aren't that efficient in and out of the huddle. And then you just overall just do not execute. So how do you be more efficient in the red zone? And I think this is a critical self-scouting period for this offense as they go into this stretch of 2 games where you have a terrible Dallas team and a terrible Titans team, albeit pretty good on defense. So I'm just interested in seeing what Dan Quinn thinks, but also more importantly, how Cliff Kingsbury thinks going into honestly, bro, it is a critical stretch, bro, because you can't afford to lose any of these next 2 games as you go into the bye week. These are 2 teams that you need to take care of business. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Shouldn't be a sweat.
Well, the encouraging thing about this isn't the first time that we would have to go through this season with Cliff Kingsbury. We really went through this after the Giants game, even though they didn't punt at all in the Giants game, but we had the issues in the red zone. 7 for 7 in the red zone as far as field goals. You didn't get any touchdowns, but and then you had the lingering question: how do you get Terry more involved? Is Cliff's offense just a short passing game, screen pass type of offense? Oh, this might be the same Cliff Kingsbury from Arizona. Then you seen in the Bengals game, they came out and looked like a completely different team, which kind of changed the narrative on the whole season in that Bengals game. Now you have it again. We're coming off a game where Terry McLaurin is not featured at all. You're coming off a game with Jaden that's kind of struggling, and you're having your struggles in the red zone the last couple of games and whatnot. So you've kind of been through this already with Cliff Kingsbury. So now can Cliff kind of draw from what he's already pulled out of his bag of tricks? Can he do it again in a critical stretch run? And then you have two get right type of games coming up. I mean, no NFL game is a guarantee before you step on the field. It's the NFL. You're gonna lose to any team, but these are two teams that are in opposite directions of where you are heading right now as a franchise. Washington's arrow is trending up. Washington is trying to get to the playoffs. The Cowboys, the Titans, those teams are trending downwards. They're not even looking at the playoffs right now. They're looking at what they're going to do for the future. So this is a critical point for Cliff to kind of get right with the offense. This is a critical point to kind of look at what he's been doing wrong the last couple of weeks. Or, not even saying that everything he's doing is wrong, but the offense has just not been up to par of what we've seen from the offense this season. Like, we've had this kind of crossroads with the defense this season. We've talked about how Joe Witt needed to find a way to get the defense going, and it looks like Joe Witt has kind of found that path for the defense. They're surging, as you said, Maul. So now Cliff Kingsbury, you've been in this situation before already this season. You know what you kind of already know how to kind of pull yourself back up to where you need to be as an offense. Now you're slumping. Can you get these guys going? I mean, maybe get the quick game stuff going early with Terry. Maybe get him a couple of bubble screens like you like to do with Dayami, to get him involved. B-Rob needs to be more effective. But again, B-Rob has missed a few games over these past few weeks. Last week was his first game back in a couple of weeks. Maybe he gets his legs up under him going forward in this game. I think the key is you need to get Eckler more involved again in the passing game. I mean, he had a pretty good game this past week. Actually, he had a lot of catches this past week in the passing game, but it wasn't that effective as far as the offense because nothing else was kind of going right in that game. So you want to see Eckler kind of be that complement that everything else is going on in the offense. That's when this offense is kind of seating at a high level, when other players are kind of doing their job, and then you have Austin Eckler right here, kind of the forgotten guy, the guy that everyone thought was washed. He comes in and he kind of cleans everything up. So yeah, you want to get these guys going again. I want to see them also get guys like Luke McCaffrey going in this offense. Maybe even a little bit more Noah Brown. Noah Brown is drawing critical penalties every week, the pass interference penalties every week. So, I mean, it's a lot of things that Cliff can kind of pull from. But again, he's been in this situation already this season. He succeeded after being in this situation all season. So now with two get right games coming up for the Commanders, can Cliff kind of get this thing going immediately?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want Cliff to just understand his identity and his niche, and continue to build off of that. I think at some point in some of these matchups, he's deviated from what they were doing at such a great clip and doing so well, and has kind of been all over the place. Like, truly didn't even understand what the game plan was offensively against the Philadelphia Eagles Thursday last week. I was extremely confused with that. But also at the same token, offensive line was getting beat up. Everyone was getting dogged pretty much in different situations. I think we've also learned that this offense hasn't been able to necessarily stretch the field like you probably would want. The only main target on these deep balls, in a sense, have been Terry McLaurin. If you guys don't remember, just a couple weeks ago, they did try to sign another wide receiver, which was MVS. What is his name? Maldez.
Marquez Valdez.
Yeah, Valdez Scatlin. He ended up deciding to go with the New Orleans Saints, and surprisingly enough, he's been having some pretty big games for them over there. I think he scored like 2 or 3 touchdowns so far since that signing. I think that they realize that they need someone else that poses that threat of being a downfield weapon aside from just Terry. Even trying to deploy Diami Brown in some situations, but I mean, typically when we see him in the game, is either a bubble screen or yeah, that's it. I mean, I'll let Dre, talk about Diami Brown a bit more if he wants to. But yeah, man, I think that self-scouting moment, these days off, give everyone an opportunity to recharge. And it's like a mini buy. You get to reevaluate yourself. What could you do better here? How do you want to continue to play ball going into, you know, trying to get into the playoffs, like competing to be one of those final 7 teams in the playoff berth. And what's your true identity? I think B Rob, coming back last week, you could see some things that were working for them, and also the ability to be able to use Austin Eckler uh, on the field the same time as B Rob. You seen some productivity, but at the same token, you don't want to always just have to count on B Rob being healthy, because so far he's been kind of nicked up this season. So when he goes down, what's next? So that's the interesting part. But I anticipate them to get back into a groove. I think just the way the schedule played out with the Steelers and then having to go against the Eagles kind of messed up their chemistry offensively, but I think they'll get back into a groove. I know a lot of people are expecting Cliff to fail because of what statistics have told them over the years as he was the head coach. Well, this time he's the OC and he doesn't have as much pressure on him to manage the entire team. He gets to primarily focus on offense, and that should go well, especially with the staff that they have assembled assembled into Brian Johnson, Anthony Lynn, and Tavia Pritchard, and all these other guys, David Blah. All of those different opinions should be able to keep this offense going and clicking in a new level. As Dan Quinn even said himself, I want to say last week, Cliff hasn't even really gotten into the full offense yet.
Hey
Well,
Mo,
now it's time.
I just want to say, I see an Eagles fan. Well, we have a couple of Eagles fans here. One of them wanted to talk trash, but I just want to say thank you to the Eagles fans that are actually tuning in, because to me, this says that you all are starting to actually view us as a threat. Like, you're actually watching our podcast. You're actually talking trash to us. You didn't care about us before. You see us coming, and we are coming, baby. Just know that. Just know that, hey, you may be a little bit better than or slightly better than us right now, and you might be better than us for the rest of the season. But we come in and we appreciate your viewership, and we appreciate the fact that y'all thinking
Yeah,
about
make
us.
sure I hit that like button as well. But I think at the very least, and I stand on this still, that rematch is going to determine the division. So we got a few more weeks until that. But we'll make it that far, and I think that's kind of the basis of the last question that we got for this show. And it's the title of the show. Can Washington regain the division lead? I think if we do the math, bruh, I don't think Washington can afford to lose more than 2 games if they want to take over the division or regain the division lead. So what's that? How many games what are they? 7-4? 7-4 right now? That's 11 games. So they got 6 left.
6 more games.
So they can't go no worse than 4-2 down the stretch. What do we think
keep
about?
in mind the Eagles played the Steelers and the Ravens still. They still have
Steelers and the Ravens. And I feel like there's another team when they schedule that's pretty interesting too. Let's see.
Us. We are one of those
Right
interesting
now.
teams.
Why did my computer freeze at the same exact time? The Rams. Yeah, the Rams.
Yeah,
Rams is a wild
sneaky
card.
game. Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm like,
yes.
I wouldn't count like you got a shot as long as you make it to week 16 and Philly has lost at least 2 games. You got a shot. But what do y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, no, I absolutely, and I thought this after we lost to them all that it's still going to come down. Even if we would have beat them, it would have still came down to that next matchup that we had against them. Because I mean, it's still a long season. I mean, you got 6 more games, at least for us. I think the Eagles
Oh
have
yeah, Jay
7 more
Tyler, right?
games.
My bad. We gonna lose one game for the division. Basically, we gotta
Yeah,
go. We gotta go
and that's the
5-0.
thing. You have to. I mean, we already swept the Giants. I mean, at this point, I will be disappointed if they don't sweep the Cowboys. You have to sweep that team. I don't know about you, Maul, but I had the Cowboys on the spread last night. I was buying into the hype that they may have actually gave the Texans a competitive game, but that team didn't look competitive at all. In fact, it looked like the team that we watched Washington thrash on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago when we had the Washington football team. But no, so you have to sweep the Cowboys. I mean, that's on our end. Who is scary on our schedule? I don't think there's too many scary teams on our schedule at this point going forward outside of the Eagles. The Eagles are and there's the Falcons. The Falcons are a team you have to kind of be
Them
concerned
boys
about.
are reeling, bro.
But that's where I was going with that more. I do think that you're probably catching them at a good time. You're not catching them at the beginning of the season. You're probably catching them at a time where Michael Penix might end up being the starter by the time we end up facing the Falcons. But yeah, so no, I do think that that game against Philadelphia will be the game that ends up deciding the division. I don't think that Philadelphia is going to run away with this division because Philadelphia, again, as I mentioned before, they're facing two of those tough teams that we kind of face. They could ultimately beat these teams. I mean, the Steelers and the Ravens, but those are two tough games, and those are not gimme games for the Eagles, and they're going to be in a dogfight in those games. So what happens in those games determines how I think this division is going to unfold. If you lose both of those games as the Eagles, then you are really talking about a competitive. This is definitely coming down to that Washington rematch. If you split one of those games for the Eagles, then you're still probably talking about a competitive rematch with Washington for the division, because I mean if that's assuming Washington takes care of business, right? So we take care of our business, we're in that good position. I mean, if we don't take care of business, none of anything that I said matters. Like everything I just say, disregard that. But I'm confident that Washington is going to bounce back against the teams on their schedule that they're facing. And if they do what I think they're capable of doing against the teams that they have left on the schedule, then I do think that game is going to come down to the division when they face the Eagles again.
AJ.
Yeah. Like I said, man, I've been saying all season, there's no one on the schedule that I don't feel like Washington can't beat. I think all these games that are remaining on the schedule are winnable. I just think it's all about, are we gonna get to see a complete Washington Commanders team, or is one side of the ball gonna have to carry the other? Right now, the defense has been carrying the offense the past 2 weeks. But at the end of the day, like, this team is more than capable and is one of the better teams in the NFL overall. I just think that, injury is what's going to play a role in teams pushing for the playoffs and clinching a berth. Who's going to continue to stay the healthiest? As we see a lot of teams losing players week in and week out, different things happening. Washington can keep their key components on their offense and defense healthy, then I expect them to make a playoff run. Right now, being 7-4, you essentially pretty much just need to get to 9 or 10 wins to get into the playoffs, and they're only a couple games away. When you look at the schedule, Dallas, like I said, is food. New Orleans Saints, food. The Titans, food. Rams game gonna be nice. Falcons game could be nice. You get Eagles again, and am I missing another team? Oh, you get Cowboys again. You get
The Saints. We play the Saints,
We
right?
got the Cowboys and
you play
I
the
thought it
Saints
was
in December.
You should beat them.
Yeah, so it's
I
like
think you beat the
you
Saints.
you should win. You should win a majority of these games remaining.
I'm confused. Did you say Rams, bro?
I thought they played the Rams.
It's about the Eagles, right?
Nah, I thought Washington
No.
played the Rams.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. Yeah, nah, Washington don't play the Rams.
Yeah, we don't play the
Okay,
Rams.
my bad.
We
So
don't.
the only team out of the NFC West they played was the Cardinals. My bad. So yeah, you should be able to win these games. I wish I knew the team records combined remaining on the schedule. But I mean, Tennessee's not good. Saints aren't good. Cowboys aren't good. Yeah, most these teams combined don't have a winning record. So, yeah, I expect us to be doing a show in January talking about a playoff game, and maybe if it's even home, we're at that game, and we're taking the opportunity. I was about to say something so wild. Thank God I caught myself. We're
Thank
taking
God
the
you
opportunity
did.
to enjoy playoff Washington Commanders football.
All right, man. I think I'm trying to double check. Yeah, we good. Okay. All right. That's it for us. The Saints are sneaky, but I don't respect Derek Carr. I don't care what they're doing right now. There is nothing that you can say or do to convince me that I should be worried about a Saints-led team by Derek Carr. He's just on a hot streak right now. And they fired a head coach that clearly nobody in New Orleans had a ton of respect for.
And we took their best cornerback.
Yeah. So I ain't got no respect for a Derek Carr led offense or led team, respectfully. So let's go ahead and run it up, put a 40 burger on their ass and get out of New Orleans, bro. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for us. All 32 is back tomorrow evening. Commanders Morning Show. We're gonna be live tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Wake your ass up and tap in to the morning show, and then the fellas will be back on Thursday. Okay, Monty, I see you. I ain't gonna repeat it, but I see you in the chat.
Monty, that dude, man. I fuck with Monty.
Yeah, bro. And then the fellas will be back on Thursday previewing Commanders Cowboys. So with all that being said, we out here. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy them games, man. Them playing games. I think Cleveland and Boston on right now. So go ahead, tap in if you have.
I got action tonight, Mo.
Right, we out here. Peace.
Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Damn, set. Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.